Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Rangers lose by a final score of 6-3 to the Devils at Madison Square Garden. This was actually the same final score as we saw in New Jersey on March 7th. And this was the second of three matchups in March. Hadn't played till March 7th, but it all kind of goes pretty quickly. Um, and this was the first of two at Madison Square Garden. The Rangers will play in just shy of 2 weeks again against the Devils. And you look at the Rangers against tri-state teams this year, 0-6. Went 0-4 against the went 0-4 against the Islanders, currently 0-2 against the Devils with one matchup remaining. And, yet again, it's Jack Hughes really just having his way with the Rangers. He gets a goal and 2 assists, was very, very dynamic. In 25 games against the Rangers, he has 20 goals. So, again, not only is he an immensely talented, great player, but he even steps it up further against the Rangers. But the good thing is it's one of the few times I can not mind it, with me, sort of rooting for the Rangers to get as good a draft position and pick as possible. So, but usually it's frustrating. Here, you kind of try to internalize it a little bit differently, but it doesn't change the fact that he is going to be a thorn in the Rangers' side for a long time. Just a game where the Rangers really gave next to nothing. The game was close. Look, the game pretty much was up for grabs till close to the end, honestly. I guess I would say when Jack Hughes scored his goal to make it 5-3, at that point, you could surmise that it was going to be pretty much over. But hey, 2-goal game with 7 minutes left, even that's not definitely over. But yeah, I mean, the Devils outshot the Rangers 39-18, 17-2 in the first. The Rangers never had double-digit shots in any period. 2 in the first, 9 in the second, 7 in the third. Jonathan Quick was in net. And look, again, it's one of those things where, and I wasn't sure, I had said last episode that I thought that you could go either way. For some reason, I kind of felt like maybe it would just be Igor for the home game, and then the next night it was Quick. But the more I thought about it, it really was a tough call because in some ways, workload-wise, it kind of made more sense, especially with the Rangers not playing again until Sunday, to kind of just give Igor an extra night and have him go against Columbus. So it makes sense. But the point here is that the Rangers played really bad. Jonathan Quick actually kind of kept them in it, but yet it's a game where he allows 6 goals. Like, he had that one shutout against Calgary, but it's hard. Look, and he made some good saves there. Like, it counts, right? But when he plays, the the Rangers' percentage chance of winning just decreased drastically. Which again, this time of year it's fine, but if you're really looking into evaluation for next season, and look, Jonathan Quick's had a Hall of Fame career. His accolades speak for themselves. We don't have to get into that. There's so many positives about Jonathan Quick. And he's capable, if in the right workload, the right situation, he's shown that he can, steal a game or two. But let's be honest with ourselves. Like Jonathan Quick, I'm not sure what the answer is, right? I don't know. I don't think it's internal, right? I don't know what they think about Dylan Garand. I wouldn't mind seeing him, right? Like, I think at this point, with what is it now, 14 or so games to go, I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be nice to get him in a game or two just to see what you have there at the NHL level. But, um, it's not something you think about much, and they very well might go back to Quick next year as the backup, but I think it certainly would be well within reason to go in a different direction. And look, I don't even blame this game on him. Rangers were absolutely terrible, and this was kind of Rangers had that 4-game winning streak. They were playing very well, but then the question was, once things started to turn negatively, when will it stop? And we're still that answer we don't know right now, right? This is just it's a 2-game losing streak. The Minnesota game, if you want to count it, if you want to start it there, you could. But look, I'm not going to, but I just based on the amount, what was it, 22-1 or 21-1 shots on goal, Minnesota in that third period. Obviously they're, vastly superior to the Rangers, but the question I have now is, where does it go from here? Right? Because if they like, and does it become a situation where they just start losing games like left and right? I don't know the answer to that, right? Like they have shown at times, some bounce back ability, kind of in the non-Shesterkin Fox injury time, right? That January was just ugly as could be, but around that, the losing streaks weren't crazy, but they have a tough one tomorrow. Like at Columbus, like now Igor is an X factor, no question. He just is, and he'll be in net. But um, Columbus is a desperate team, a team that's playing well, and is a tough team. Columbus, they have a very good home record. I mean, in general, their record is good. It's not as if their home record is what is their home record? Oh no, it is significantly better. It's 18-8-7. Like in terms of getting points, and the Rangers, they already won early in the year in a shootout at Columbus. But getting ahead of myself, let's discuss that after this Devil game here. And the Rangers actually sustained a couple of injuries. Noah Laba leaves with a lower body injury. He got into an awkward situation with Jonathan Kovacevic, where Kovacevic was called for a hooking penalty on Laba. And Laba, I don't know if it was a hip flexor, groin, like he just seemed uncomfortable. He was it was just kind of ginger. Um, and I don't see this being a long-term injury, but certainly with him playing, at the very least, I doubt he plays against Columbus, right? At a bare minimum. And Lava, I think this is either his second or third injury where he's been kind of in and out. Like he never missed that much time, but this is, he's look, it's the style of play he plays, right? He doesn't mind getting in there. And so I hope he's okay. But wouldn't be surprised if Lava misses a little bit of time. As far as Vaakanainen goes, that one's a little bit tougher to say. I didn't see that one. It happened in the first period. I think he only played a handful of shifts. Let's see here. He played 5 shifts, a little more than 3 minutes, and was ruled out with an upper body injury. So I don't know, right? You think concussion, but again, literally didn't see it. So that's not fair at all to say that. And so with that, one would think that Vincent Iorio draws into the lineup against Columbus, and they call up probably a veteran type in Connor Mackey as opposed to the Scott Morrow route. But wouldn't be surprised if we see Morrow again at some point. So Vaakanainen, who had been a regular in the lineup lately, he had been playing solidly well. Obviously you never want to see someone get hurt, but I still think it's good to try to evaluate some of the younger players, and that kind of happens now with Vaakanainen. What does happen now, if it is Iorio or Morrow, it goes back to the situation where it's righty, where there's going to be some righty combination. Now, look, they may go 5 defensemen at some points, and depending on the game situation. But that was kind of the one benefit that they had, was that it was a little bit more aligned, right? Where it had been, for the most part, Robertson with Schneider, Vaakanainen with Borgen. Now, the whole thing kind of goes back to the way it was before Vaakanainen was reinserted into the lineup. And as far as Noah Laba goes, going to be interesting to see what happens here. I mean, it'll either be Parson or Brodzinski that comes in. I almost feel like I think that it's more likely to be Parson, but it's one of those things where it depends, right? Because if they do move Miller to center, which I almost feel like you're almost forced to, then you could go Brodzinski. But if you really are thinking about, okay, we're gonna go center for center, right, for Laba, then Parson would be the guy. Brodzinski, really, we haven't seen him as much at center as we used, because he's been with the Rangers now for a while, and when he's been in there, I feel like it's been more at wing. Even though like he was when Philip Heel got hurt a few years ago, he was the third line center, Brodzinski, for a bit there before they got Alex Wemberg in a trade. So, but here we'll see. Again, not a big deal either way. These are not guys that are really big parts of their future at all in the case of Parson or Brodzinski for different reasons. But with Laba out, yeah, there will be some juggling going on there, and there was in this game. I mean, in this game, like I said, with Vaakanainen out early, they went with 5 defensemen, so all of them played a lot, right? Like the least of the rest of the bunch was 19 minutes and 19 seconds from Will Borgen. Fox played 26:44, Gavrikov 26:31. Like they were the ones that really played a lot more than normal. Gavrikov and Fox. For the forwards, what seemed to happen Now Laba gets hurt in this like middle of the second period, right? So these things don't really come into full effect, I'd say, until the third, especially because the second saw some penalties, right? So you did lose Laba as far as like on the penalty kill and whatnot, but they kept the Zibanejad line intact. And what seemed to happen is Trocheck was with Cooley, and then it was kind of rotating as far as that wing on the other side, really primarily to me between Radish and Hamelash is what it seemed to be. Maybe Edstrom every now and then. It seemed like Edstrom kind of didn't play much in that third at all. And again, Miller was in the middle. With, sorry, I shouldn't say again because I hadn't said it yet. Miller was moved to the middle with Cartier and Sherry. And so in essence, Miller kind of took the Laba spot. Again, there's not a whole lot to take out of there. It feels like they prefer to not have Miller down the middle, but they kind of had to, right? I mean, as it is, Edstrom is the fourth line center, and he's really a natural wing. Your options with Sam Carrick traded are very limited now with Noah Laba out. That one has some significance, right? Vaakanainen, not so much. It really doesn't. But if Laba is out, like I'm not saying like drastically, but it is, right? Like I said, he's on the second power play unit for the most part, kills penalties. Like he had been playing a decent amount and playing pretty well. And so now what do they do, right? Do they just simply put Parson back in the lineup? And the problem with that is that I guess Parson or Edstrom would be your third line center, which seems pretty crazy. But or you could move Miller to center, but then it kind of look. That's probably what they should do because let's be honest, that Trocheck Miller Cooley line gives you nothing. Nothing. There's next to no creativity. They're generally pretty slow. And I just think it makes sense to move Cooley to third line if you can. Will Cooley is not a top six player. He's not. I mean, the only reason he's there is out of necessity. And so now that Laba is hurt, it doesn't matter as much, but it might have made sense. And I know that Laba line has been good with Cartier and Sherry specifically, but to maybe move Cooley down and have him be with Laba and Cartier, for example. And I know this sounds blasphemous, but he's actually A, been halfway decent, and B, it's more because I don't care as much about Connor Sherry's future. And knowing that Vincent Trocheck is still a likely trade candidate in the offseason, I actually think it probably makes more sense to go Sherry on the Trocheck line and put Cooley with Laba. But I think that is something I think is at least worth seeing how it is. Again, it's not going to change much in terms of like results, but I just think in terms of, experimenting, evaluating, because what I do know is that Will Cooley is not a top six player. And him playing with Trocheck, I don't know what that does at this point in time because it's not working. And, he's just not playing well. Among many others. This was a, pretty ugly game, kind of across the board. It's not even worth going into kind of player by player because there weren't many players that played well. This was they didn't play, the Kings second period was pretty brutal, but in and around that, like it wasn't a terribly played game. This was just pretty bad from the outset, and I don't mind it, but the fact of the matter is like you are playing a rival, a team that did beat you like a week and a half ago. And yeah, they just really didn't show up at all. So let's go through the game here. Devils, like I said, and by the way, Jacob Markstrom was in net for New Jersey. Like I said, Jonathan Quick for the Rangers. And the Devils have been playing pretty well lately. Like they are a team that I think down the stretch, it's not going to be a team you want to play. They're going to be playing some real spoiler, the Devils. I could definitely, if they stay healthy, like I said, there's a lot of scoring pop from this team right now. And the power play is humming too. Special teams, yet again, was bad for the Rangers in this matchup. Ranger penalty kill in general has not been good lately at all. That hasn't been talked about by me enough. It has not been good. And so, yeah, like that's another factor in this game as it had been on March 7th. So, yeah, Devils totally outshooting the Rangers, outplaying them. And sure enough, as it goes, the Rangers take a 1-0 lead at 15:20, again, against the flow of play completely. At 15:20, Vladislav Gavrikov scores again. It is insane. He has 14 goals. Alexei Lafreniere gets the assist, but yeah, just like ridiculous. As the Devils couldn't get out of the zone, Lafreniere does a nice job of retrieving the puck after his own shot, finds Gavrikov up top, and I don't think Markstrom saw it. Give Cooley some credit, Will Cooley, for providing a little bit of a net front presence, because I'm not sure if, again, Markstrom could even see where that puck was going. So it kind of had eyes. And Gavrikov, again, the scoring touch is there. And like, I'd say arguably, like, his offense has been better than his defense lately, which is crazy. So one of the Rangers right there, but an immediate penalty by Gabe Perreault as he holds Jack Hughes at 15:55. So again, Hughes making things happen. Like, he drew a couple of penalties. Hell, there was one time later in the game where the ref, Hughes almost had a breakaway and the ref took him down. So it's just, he is a major, major story here. And pretty soon after they get that power play, they score, right? Less than 20 seconds after they get it, it's Nico Hischier scoring his 24th goal of the season from Connor Brown and Jesper Bratt. It was a face-off win by the Devils. I believe Trocheck lost the draw, I believe. And just easy passing where Bratt throws it towards the net. I think Brown gets a piece of it, and Hischier with some good hand-eye coordination and really no resistance from the Rangers in front of the net, he's able to bat it in past Jonathan Quick. So that ties it up at 1. And then before the period was out, the Devils take a 2-1 lead at 19:16 of the first. It's Arseny Gritsuk scoring his 13th goal of the season unassisted. And this was one where, give Ty Carte initial credit for making something happen. He actually kind of caused a turnover, but then he turned the puck over himself. So Carte turns it over. Adam Fox was not in great position, and Adam Fox does not have any speed. We know this. He's slow, and Gritsuk kind of blows by him, and he is able to score past Jonathan Quick, beat him up high. It might have deflected slightly off of Matthew Robertson. I believe it did, but still, that's a goal that's just, pure speed. The Devils as a team are so much faster than the Rangers. I mean, it has just been a very good matchup. Really, sans 2024, the Devils have really matched up very well with the Rangers. It's just the facts. But again, it can be a year-by-year situation based on, but again, 2024 was an amazing season for the Rangers and a really bad one for the Devils. So 2-1 New Jersey at the end of one. Rangers do tie it up quickly. Again, the Rangers were outshot 17-2 in the first period, and they were able in the second to get a goal 19 seconds in. It's Mika Zibanejad scoring his 28th goal of the season, assisted by Gabe Perreault. Gabe Perreault was able to pressure Dougie Hamilton. Look, a simply bad turn by Hamilton, but Perreault puts some pressure on him, and it goes to Zibanejad. He moves it all alone, takes a shot, and scores. Now, good opportunity for Zibanejad, but also one that I think Markstrom wants that back. Goes off his glove. They were team sweet and teammates, actually. And goes off his glove up in the air and past him. So that ties it up at 2. And then at 5:32, JT Miller is called for holding Nico Hischier. Now, the Rangers do kill this off, but, with JT Miller, putting him on that, this is just, reminding me. And it's, Gabe Perreault should be on the number 1 power play unit. And either for Miller or Trocheck, right? You got to be thinking about the future here. And so, look, if you want Miller on there, fine. But it just, you have Lafreniere is like the net front guy right now. Miller's like kind of on the half wall. I would almost swap that and just, have it be Miller be the net front guy and have Lafreniere be on the wall. But that power play is just way more stagnant. With Gabe Perreault off it and no Artemi Panarin, where's the creativity? It's really lacking. Like, look, Fox does what he does up top. That doesn't change. And you have the threat of the Zibanejad shot. But in and around that, like, it's just, there's not a whole lot going on, really. Again, like, the power play's been pretty good, right? Like, it has been. And a big reason that I think Gabe Perreault helped. But yeah, JT Miller, it's just, it is what it is. It's been a horrible season for him. And, he comes back to the lineup and kind of the losses ensue. Not totally fair. I get it, but it is what it is. At 9:12, Kovacevic hooks Noah Laba, right? And that is where Laba gets hurt. He tries to come back in there. I think he might have even been out there briefly for power play too, but wasn't good enough to go, and he was out for the rest of the game. So we'll see. Again, I don't see him being out super long, but certainly at least a game or two, I would think, for Noah Laba. And look, why rush it, right? He's like, let him get back to full health, but I think we'll see him again for sure. But by the time the power play is over, Alexis Lafreniere hooks Dawson Mercer at 11:09. So, you know, Ranger power play, not only does it not score, but then Lafreniere takes a penalty. So now the Devils have a power play, and they do take advantage of that chance. Connor Brown scores Connor Brown, his 13th goal of the season from Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier. Just a great play by Jack Hughes. And maybe part of this, I think, Will Cooley did a really bad job in terms of defending this. He wasn't alone in that, but I'm wondering if, normally I think it's Laba and Cartier, like there could be a little bit of that going on, right? Where the Laba injury happened just before that. And maybe Cooley, again, I think it's just Jack Hughes' pure talent. And Will Cooley, I think, is just not that good in the penalty kill, in my opinion. But he sets up Connor Brown perfectly. Quick gets a little piece of it, but it goes in. So Brown makes it 3-2. And then soon thereafter, Simone Nemec slashes Alexis Lafreniere at the 12:32 mark on a breakaway. But the Ranger power play does nothing. Nothing at all. And so the score is 3-2 going into the third period. And look, it was all Devils. It was all Devils. 29-11 in shots through two. The third period was definitely the Rangers' best period. There was a bit of pushback on their part finally, but even still, it kind of was lacking. And at 4:18, Mika Zibanejad trips Jack Hughes, to which the Rangers do kill that off. However, 11 seconds after the Zibanejad penalty ends, Timo Meier scores his 19th goal of the season, assisted by Cotter at 6:29. A turnover by Gavrikov. Was unable to handle the puck. Cotter is able to take it, goes in all alone. Quick makes the initial stop, right? Jonathan Quick made a lot of high danger grade A saves. But unfortunately, the puck ends up in the stick of Timo Meier and he scores, where Will Borgen was actually behind Quick but was unable to stop it. Meier was able to score this goal, give the Devils a 4-2 lead. However, the Rangers were able to cut that deficit back to one, and it was Connor Sherry at 9:41 scoring his third goal of the season, assisted by Robertson and Miller. So again, this was a line that, was created in the third with Miller in the middle of Cartier and Sherry, and Miller passes to Robertson at the point. Robertson takes a shot. I believe it goes off of Nick Bukestad and right in the perfect spot for Connor Sherry, and he buries it to, again, make the score 4-3. And then right after that is where you have a really good shift by the Zibanejad line. Perreault and Lafreniere. I mean, Dawson Mercer turned it over a million times, could not get the puck out of the zone. I think it was Mercer, Meier, and Hischier, I think was the line. Rangers totally were, Markstrom made some good saves. One on Perreault comes to mind on a pretty tough angle, but still, this was getting to us, the Ranger, the crowd was getting into a little bit. The momentum seemed like it was turning. And then Jack Hughes said, this is it. Basically saying goodnight as he just makes a bunch of, curls and moves in the Rangers zone. Around Hamelash, Cartier, Trocheck. And eventually it's a nice passing play where Nemec gets it back to Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes takes a slap shot and scores. Now, look, probably one that Jonathan Quick might want to have back, right? And I wasn't too critical of the previous goals, but I think the last couple by Quick were a little weak. But still, what a move by Hughes. 18th goal of the season from Nemec and Brown at 13:05 to give the Devils that 2-goal lead again. That was pretty big, right? In terms of, at that point, to me, it's like, all right, Rangers are very likely not coming back from that. And then the Devils score again at 16:22. It's Brad, his 16th goal of the season from Dillon and Hughes. And this was one where, Brad goes in, with a bit of speed. I think it might have deflected off his advantage. And to be fair to Quick on this one, in thinking about it again, his advantage did deflect it, so that probably changed the course slightly of the puck. And so the Devils take a 6-3 lead, and that's your final score. So Rangers lose 2 in a row. Look, the home struggles are very real. I have to be honest and again, there's still 14 games left, where, I was saying for a while, oh, like in the second half, and it was kind of true for a while where it's like, all right, like, I'm not saying they're going to home and they're going to lose a lot, but I felt like the Rangers, just from a results standpoint, would um, find a way to get more points home on the road. That has not really been the case. And so they're 9-17-6 at home, 28-32-8 overall. And now they go to Columbus in what should be a really difficult game. The only thing I'll say is, and look, I like the Rangers to lose, of course, is that the Rangers do have Shesterkin in net. That's a big, big factor. And the fact that the way they lost this game, there will be a bit of a response from them. But even all of that said, it's going to be tough, right? Columbus did not play the night before. Columbus is a good team that is desperate at home. But hey, the previous two matchups did go to overtime, right? Rangers won in the shootout at Columbus earlier in the season. And, just what was it? A few weeks ago, you had that game where Columbus had a 4-0 lead. Rangers tied it up before, and Columbus won in overtime. So these games have been close, in different ways, right? The first game was a low-scoring game. Second game, a high-scoring game. But the Rangers will have their work cut out for them. It'd be surprising for them to win. But then again, I didn't think they'd win at Minnesota, and they did. But this will be a more desperate Columbus team. Minnesota knows to make the playoffs. Columbus is fighting for their playoff lives. So kind of similar to that Kings game, expect Columbus to play a pretty, solid game beyond the talent that they have. So, and also, last thing I'll say, the Rangers on the second of a back-to-back, they are 1-8-1. They had that one win against Calgary. Other than that, they have not been good all year in the second of back-to-back. And some of these Rangers had a lot of ice time tonight with Vaakanainen and Laba leaving the game. So there could be a little bit of fatigue factor going on as well. But again, Devils come to Madison Square Garden. Jack Hughes does his thing. And the Devils beat the Rangers by a score of 6-3.